This video is sponsored by Private Internet Access VPN. Xi Jinping apparently requested that US officials smile brightly when meeting him, and that's referring to the upcoming November visit to the United States. Meanwhile, California governor potentially running for president in 2024 meets Xi Jinping in Beijing. All the while, there is internal trouble brewing in China when it comes to the economy and politics. Time for the annual relationship reset. Let's talk about all of it. Welcome to China Insider. I'm David Zhang. It's that time of the year again. US-China relationship hits rock bottom, so it's time for a brief pause and some top-level leadership meetings to make sure that the bomb doesn't blow up right now. It's like taking a break on a break up. Anyways, so it seems like Biden and Xi Jinping will meet in November following the APEC summit in California. And this has been indicated by this week's state visit from Wang Yi, the top Chinese diplomat, and he will be meeting Blinken. It was that the CCP, well, through his mouth, shifted the tone of the attitude toward the Israel-Hamas conflict, saying that all countries have the right to defend themselves. Now, this is clearly a step softer than what we're hearing from China, and it comes right before the two sides are setting up this leadership meeting. And today, a Chinese commentator revealed information that I think is quite funny but credible. He says that the Chinese side has requested that the United States officials, when they meet Xi Jinping, to smile, and so that apparently Xi Jinping would feel at home, just like Gavin Newsom did here. Now, Cai Shingquan, who also was the first to reveal that Li Shangfu, the ousted defense minister, was in trouble. So his sources are quite good. And this means that Xi Jinping will, appear as a winner, or at least somebody who seems to be getting the attention on the international stage, right? And this time it's by the reception of the United States. Now, why is this funny to me? Well, consider this, right? It's super ridiculous of a demand to the United States and its officials to smile, as if they wouldn't do so voluntarily. And it's simply because just so a dictator can feel emotionally, comfortable to meet. But of course, this type of behavior is quite typical in the CCP's arrangement when it comes to Xi Jinping's visits and his international sort of relationships. And, he seems to be the one that has to be above everybody else in whichever setting, unless that person really is in dire need to be pleased by Xi. Just one example, during the BRICS summit, the Chinese side had actually met with the Indian side in terms of trying to discuss the two countries' worsening relationship, but they worded it as if it was India who requested and begged for this meeting to happen. And of course, in the case of foreign leaders going to China as well, we see that it's always pictured as the visitors coming, right, to beg Xi Jinping, with Macron, with other leaders as well. And Xi Jinping is standing there and offering out his hand to shake with the incoming visitor, as if all the other countries are tributary to Xi Jinping's regime. And this was even more ridiculous when Zhang was the head of the Foreign Ministry's protocol department. What he was doing was specifically held the duty of making sure that Xi Jinping seemed like he was well received in other countries. Now, according to a former Belarusian diplomat, Pavel Slankin, he was recalling when Xi Jinping visited Belarus, Zhang had called him at 2 a.m. in the morning after Xi Jinping's first day of the visit. Now, what happened was on the second day, Xi Jinping planned to visit the Museum of the Great Patriotic War. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, Zhang decided to once again check the readiness of the museum to make sure that it meets his boss's standards. Qin had to make sure that apparently the music matched precisely when to where Xi Jinping would step on which stairs. And so Slankin's exact tweet was, quote, "Chinese diplomats walked up the stairs of the museum," which I presume was at 2 a.m. in the morning, counted the steps and asked, "When will the solemn music turn on? What step will the chairman step at this moment? Will it be this one or that one, or are you sure?" Okay, it's like the most faced image wanting thing ever to hear from people, right? But Xi Jinping loves this stuff. So to me, asking US officials to smile is the least the foreign ministry is going to do, because, it's a series of demands that they're going to be asking for, and this is probably the minimum. Now, if you recall, the translator of Xi Jinping, he was pushed away by the security guard after Xi had stepped in through the doorway at the BRICS summit in South Africa. Now, this would actually be a big issue for Xi Jinping, given everything is arranged, right? Last I heard, protocols were really bad during this particular trip. And despite everything, right, Xi Jinping apparently had his furniture to, curtains, teacups, all of the stuff had to be shipped from China to South Africa, yet they fumbled on one of the most basic procedural stuff with that translator. Of course, Xi Jinping doesn't understand English, so he needs his translator by his side. And this whole thing got Xi really angry, and apparently Wang Yi was even reprimanded for it. Especially considering this upcoming meeting with Biden. It's the most important foreign policy meeting for both countries. And given that the CCP has essentially caused chaos by egging on Iran, Palestine, Hamas, and so on to create the situation in the Middle East, particularly as well in Europe with meeting Putin and such. So now it's just a part of a bigger picture as to what we can discuss. But yeah, it's super strange but funny that Xi Jinping's administration is asking for things like this. And next, we're going to move on to talking about the meeting between California Governor Gavin Newsom and Xi Jinping in Beijing. Now, it's super clear that Newsom is gearing up for a 2024 run as a Democratic candidate and potentially, replacing Biden. And so Xi Jinping and the CCP knows that, and they essentially want to get a head start to cultivate a relationship. Again, time will tell how that will work out next year. If he does become president too, that's a whole different story. Will he actually be friendly with China? That's still to be seen, right? I want to hold my judgment on that. But first of all, climate talk with China is just simple nonsense. China doesn't care about the environment. China's simply using this to capitalize on taking advantage of the relationship reset. Right? Second of all, meeting a governor is actually breaking ranks. It's technically skipping 3 tiers of ranks, right? You have the Secretary of State, top diplomat, you have the Vice President, and then you have the President. So it's like really, really special for Xi Jinping to open this reception for Gavin Newsom. But again, it's climate change, environment, etc. It's a safe topic for both sides to talk about. And I think it's super stupid that or naive even, to think that China wants to cooperate on it. But that's just one area right now where the current administration and leadership, they think that somehow can cooperate with China on. Pure wishful thinking in my view. From now though, I think we see this as another sign that Xi Jinping wants to thaw the US-China relationship a bit, right? Like I said, take a pause by giving audience to the rising star in the Democratic Party. It adds another layer of playing nice to the upcoming visit. Now, know that Xi Jinping doesn't just meet anybody, right? There must be a particular reason as to why. So I think the agenda here is quite clear. Xi Jinping wants to know what exactly is going to be the future that the party deals with and what to expect after 2024 even. And really, if you compare the historical visits, right, every time Henry Kissinger comes to China, he gets a super warm reception. He's not even a U.S. official. He's retired. Yet he gets a better treatment than, say, Tony Blinken when he was in China. Kissinger got a whole family-level reception, right, from the CCP. Meanwhile, Blinken had to go through 2 rounds of struggle sessions before he got to meet Xi Jinping. And of course, California is big on green energy and climate change, so it is also an avenue for Xi to open up more economic connections, exports on solar panels, on electric vehicles. Of course, we know that the Chinese economy has dramatically declined, and trade with the U.S. has also declined since the pandemic. So boosting those sales and exports will at least alleviate some of the pressure on the Chinese economy. And of course, we know that California as a state has a lot to offer as well, right? From the connection, political connection, influence, perhaps even infiltration to the economy. There's a lot of areas in which China would like to get their hands on. Now, let's take a break for my sponsored segment. Now, scammers and hackers can easily get access to your information, like phone numbers and emails. That's why one of the best tools to defend yourself online is a trusted VPN. Our sponsor, Private Internet Access, is the world's most transparent VPN provider. Whenever you're browsing online on an unprotected device, such as your phone, computer, tablet, console, etc., your device is transmitting a great amount of information out into the open, which can be viewed by various different entities before it even reaches the intended website. Now, a virtual private network, or VPN for short, hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through secure access channels. Imagine a shield that protects you from those who are looking to harm your online presence. Now, they don't keep a record of your data, which has been proven multiple times in court and by a third-party audit from Deloitte. And the best part is that you can use your private internet access subscription to protect an unlimited number of devices at the same time. And my favorite feature is the built-in ad blocking. Private internet access also allows you to choose one of the 84 countries so that you can access Netflix and other streaming services content in those countries. With this powerful geolocation feature, I use it to browse Chinese websites that are crucial for my research as if I'm in China. By using my link, you can grab an 83% discount on private internet access. That's just $2.03 a month. And you can also get 4 extra months completely for free. So click the link in the description or comment and start your secured internet browsing today. Okay, let's continue. Next, we're going to talk about the domestic problems. So Xi Jinping for the first time visited the People's Bank of China, which is the central bank, in his career. And he also visited the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, or SAFE, which regulates foreign currency exchanges in China. Now, despite not knowing much about the economy, Xi Jinping's visit sends a clear signal that the tight grip on political policies leading the economic direction will actually continue, but it will be further amplified. But will it work? I personally think it's never going to work because Xi Jinping has essentially undone decades of pseudo-market economy in China from his predecessors. It was always, the understanding that in the Chinese Communist Party, to avoid the disaster of the Soviet Union, you have a tight grip on the ideology and the policies. In other words, the party will always still be above everything. But you sort of give enough breathing room, a relaxation on the economies. But now Xi Jinping wants a tight grip on both. China right now has a multitude of economic problems. You and I can sit here and talk for days just to list everything, but I'll just focus on one today. That is, again, a topic on the lack of US dollars available in China. By lacking in their scales, right, we're still talking in the trillions of dollars in that range, 3.15 trillion to be exact. But Xi Jinping's regime has been forced to sell US Treasury and bonds with the lack of US dollars on hand. And so this is a decline in the Chinese US dollar balance. And of course, we know that it's happening globally, but selling US debt essentially means that they can get more US dollars in return. And that is used again to boost that dollar reserve, which is dying. Now, by selling off their US bonds and treasuries, it's, again, of course, medium and long-term US debt, widely seen as safe investments to keep, right? But right now, what's happening in China is that it needs an immediate solution, which is to stop the massive gap in value in exchange rate between the Chinese yuan and the US dollar. Now, China even considered all sorts of different mediating options, but so far it seems like it hasn't helped that much. China even fired their version of Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, rehired him again, and then fired him again in a span of less than a year. And that's because we saw a scary fall of the value of the RMB. Recently, it hit a key number of $1 to 7.3 RMB. To defend free fall of the Chinese RMB, China's SAFE has essentially been lending US dollar balances to Chinese banks and instructed them to protect the Chinese currency. Now, balances, of course, mean a net in and out flow of US dollars. Now, like I said, China isn't the only one running out of the US dollars in their pockets. Argentina is another one, right? These countries that are trying the so-called de-dollarization. In other words, they're simply not telling you that they're out of money or out of the US dollars. And so they have to use other currencies to settle. Now, what China has done for a long time is to artificially determine the value of the yuan. And because simply they can't, right? They manipulate the value so that they can sell more products per dollar. And in other words, increase their exports. And so the actual value of this currency, the yuan, is still undetermined. And like Korea back in 1998, both cases, they used political interventions to try to solve an economic problem. Korea back then used their dollar reserve to prop up the Korean currency, but they lied about the real values of the Korean won. And so while they still did that, right, they lended US dollars to Korean banks. Xi Jinping's visit to the central bank, it also indicates that the real estate market in China is not rebounding anytime soon. On China's top Q&A forum, Zhihu, a top post shows national home prices are down 16% from their peak, and prices in 57 cities have been falling for 3 months in a row. Will home prices continue to fall in the future? Definitely. And this post has since been shadow banned from searches. It tells us that the more home prices fall, the less people will buy it, simply because no one wants to buy when they note that the prices will continue to fall. So it's not a worthy investment for real estate in China. It might be here in other economies, but not in China. Also, no one is really confident in the market right now. Buying a home is like adding more burden, more debt. It's non-performing. So nobody knows how many years it would take for the market to rebound, if any at all. And so buying at this moment, that's really bad. And you're essentially buying into a bubble. Now, if you combine all three events we just discussed, Xi Jinping essentially wants to visit the United States to meet Gavin Newsom and to do all of these things because the Chinese economy is dying. It needs some type or some level of support, and it has to come from the US. It also sends two signals, right? One, it is that China cannot fully decouple from the US yet, despite them saying that they can, or they do, but they're economically more dependent on us than we do on them, simply because domestic economy, right, it's not doing so hot. It wasn't like this back in 2015 when they were trying to, dominate all the global economies. But right now, they need an outside factor. And also, second, U.S.-China relationship is hitting rock bottom, but it needs a temporary reset, a yearly reset. And so the Biden-Xi meeting will do that. It will give them some breathing room to back off to their own agenda later on. But for now, let's try to play nice. Also, I think balancing the global situation, right, around the Middle East, around Russia, and so on, perhaps even in Asia, is a big focus for the Biden-Xi meeting. So, and let's focus today on the last bit with the internal Chinese politics. So we learned yesterday that both the former foreign minister and the defense minister have been canned, Qin Gang and Li Shangfu. In the latest meetings, their state councilor role and government roles were both removed. Qin Gang was previously removed from his foreign minister role, but now he is no longer a state councilor. Li Shangfu got both his defense minister and state councilor titles removed as well. So it solidified the black box politics of the CCP. There's no explanation as to the firing, and when it comes to especially a time that the U.S. military officials are set to attend a Chinese security forum in Xiangshan, which was since been on pause from the pandemic, questions about who exactly, right, they're going to be meeting there. They don't have a new defense minister. Their foreign minister is a side job or a part-time job of their top diplomat, Wang Yi. And so everything right now seems pretty ridiculously disorganized. And that's where we are. So we've got multiple videos on Li Shangfu and Qin Gang on our channel, so make sure to go and watch them, and I'll put some in the description as well. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like, comment below your thoughts on the topics we discussed today, and let me know your thoughts in there as well. And thanks so much for watching today. Bye-bye.